Wake up everybody, let's elevate your mind. Live your life without limits, no more wasting time. Don't forget to stay focused while continuing to stay on the grind. Keep your vision real tight, then your future be bright until the finish line.
Good morning, Living Your Life Without Limits family. Thank you once again for joining me this week. I have a special guest with me today, and it is my daughter, my best friend, my confidant, and one of my biggest fans. And today, she and I wanted to talk about our journey and how we got here. And the title of today's lesson is called Unpacking Motherhood, a love letter to the single mothers. Just a little background for many of you that don't know, I was a single mother for many, many years. Not only a single mother, but a teenage mother. I had my son. I got pregnant when I was 15 years old, and I had my son turning to the age of 16. And 4 years later, I had my daughter. And that's when life really got real, and a lot of challenges and changes came along with that. But I had to also take a hard look at the choices that I was making and make better decisions, because not only did I have one child, I had two. And when the last one came, it came at a time where I was trying to go to school and build a better life for myself and my kids. And here you go. And when the kids are young, they're so adorable, there's so much loving, but then teenage years reach, and sometimes the relationship change. So at this time, I want to introduce my daughter. Her name is none other than Chanel Colleen Gates. Hello, my love. How are you?
Hi, family.
How are you?
I'm living my life without limits, shirt.
Oh, good. I can barely hear you. Turn up your audio. Turn up your audio.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you better now.
Okay, perfect. Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Oh, thank you so much. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are out there today.
Yes,
when this airs.
all the mothers.
Mother's Day been in past, but we wish you God's blessings and peace. And mothers are just the joy of the apple of everybody's eye, because the sacrifices, the love, the devotion and dedication and the hard work that is done, there's no price tag you can put on it.
Absolutely.
So I am still in New York, and my daughter is in California, and this is our first time being on the episode together. And actually, my daughter selected the topic to talk about. And so I kind of want to have her go through a little bit of her vision of how it felt growing up in a single parent home. So I'm going to turn it over to her for a minute. Let's hear her version of things.
Okay. Growing up in a single parent home, I love my mother. I start off with this, and this is to really any mother that's a single parent. A lot of times when we're growing up, at least for me, speaking for myself, I didn't really understand it, and especially understand the sacrifices that my mother had to make. Growing up, it was me and my brother. Me and my brother have different dads, and it was a little different for me because my brother's father was very present in his life, as well as his family. Whereas on my end, my father wasn't present at all by his choice. And one of my experiences growing up as a child, I noticed but didn't notice because I felt like my mother, and here's one of the things now being older, Mom, I want to salute you on is you never spoke ill of my father. Even when I would ask you questions growing up, or, we would have school dances, and that's kind of when in elementary school, when I started to notice like somebody's missing here. Hey, this is not, normal. Although growing up in Compton where we did, it was normal for a lot of households. But because you also exposed us to a lot of culture, I realized that wasn't the normal thing. And for me, seeing my brother would go off with his, dad and spend time with his dad and his dad's family, and I didn't have that, I didn't understand that. And for a long time, I must admit, I was angry kind of at you, and I blamed you, especially because when I would ask about him, you never really spoke ill of him. So I used to feel as if whatever happened that caused him not to be there was your fault. So for me,
and family, this is new revelation for me too. So this is good. We're having this discussion.
Yeah. So for me, growing up in a single family household, what I will say is I have a lot of friends that grew up in similar situations, and I didn't realize how much of a superwoman you really were until I got older. I'm still uncovering that. But, even though we grew up without our fathers, well, I definitely grew up without my father being present at all, I didn't lack as far as my necessities. You know what I mean? But emotionally, it took a toll on me. Mm-hmm. And a lot of choices that I made, was searching for that sense of fatherhood. You know what I mean? And as a teenager, as you know, our relationship was very strange because I just felt like I want to be grown. If I don't have no daddy, I'm gonna go find me a man to call daddy, and you wasn't having none of that. And so I kind of started living a little double life. So it was challenging, but on the positive note, it really created a bond for us that we now have. And I can look back as an adult and I have so much gratitude. I don't know how you did it. I remember, growing up, you would wear the same black and red and polka dot dress to church every Sunday. And I used to say, gosh, this lady don't have no clothes. And here it was, me and my brother, we didn't lack. So I didn't understand back then that a lot of your things and what I thought you just had no fashion taste was because you made sure that you were providing for us. So a lot of things I didn't understand until I got older and, mature enough to really understand your sacrifices. I used to get angry that you worked all the time and going to school and, I spent a lot of time with grandma, but yet we had everything we needed. But you were not always there because you had to provide, but yet you would still make time to put us in activities and attend when you could. But I guess for me now getting older, I'm like, wow, that's because my mom was a bad chick, she was working to make it all happen. And again, it's just such a eye opener being then and now, you know what I mean? And I think that I don't regret necessarily. I regret some of my I think I was your trouble child. But I think it's brought us to the point we are today, to where I'm able to understand. And then I always say that, when I become a mother, I hope to become half of the mother that you've been to us. And, and then I know that I'd be in good shape. I remember you used to always tell us there's no roadmap to being a parent. Correct. And, which is true, but you have done an excellent job. And I know personally, I've taken you on a lot of roads, valleys, and hidden valleys and secret valleys. But, I'm glad that it's led us to this path.
And I appreciate your honesty. And I want to encourage the single parents, as my daughter had said, when they were younger, both were challenging. I do feel, I agree with Chanel on this one thing. My son was closed with his emotions, and still today, he keeps things within, things that bother him or things that concern until it blows up. But my daughter was always very outspoken. And I remember when I would get called to school, it was always the mouth. So she always was outspoken with her concerns. And one of the things that I want to encourage single parents, whether you're going through these challenges that I've been through or can relate to what I've been through, there is a end point where it comes, and a couple of things that helped me deal with it, because there were challenges when they were younger and children. You were able to mold them. You know, I kept them in church, as my daughter said, activities. She was always in a lot of activities. Some I personally was able to take to and get engaged in. Sometimes I had to maybe do the drop off and have somebody else do the pickup, but was involved. But when them teenage years hit, where they want to challenge you the mother, they want to be as grown as you, they want to be as woman as you, then that's where we had some challenges and some problems. And one of the areas that I had to do to get through it, because I want to encourage the women, what did I do to get through it? A couple of things. I had to really draw on my faith and prayer and spiritual foundation for myself. I really, really did, because there was some times that I'm working. One year, I literally worked 8 jobs, not all at one time, but I still kept that. I still have the year that I had 8 W-2s when I took it to the tax person. And she said, you working way too much. So you're working, you're trying to go to school. I graduated when I was 22 years old, and I'd already had 2 children. I graduated as an RN, and that took a lot of work on myself, work on bending and balancing. And so when you got somebody mouthing off or doing little things that are contrary, it can weigh on you. So for me to balance that, I had to have a spiritual foundation. First and foremost, I had to do that. And the other thing in this process that I had to learn is I had to let go. I was so busy trying to avoid her from going through different challenges, especially being a female. I'm talking about my daughter right now, because there were so many dynamics going on there.
Yeah.
And she said her dad left when she was like 9 months old. And I didn't feel it was my place to badmouth him. He chose to leave because I chose to take a different course in life. I no longer wanted to be promiscuous. I no longer wanted to have sex and not be married. And I wanted to focus on raising my children and doing better for myself. And that didn't set well with him. And so he went back to where he came from, which was Illinois. But I didn't feel it was my place to put a badge on him of negativity, and that time will tell, and let her learn who her father is on her own. So that was a conscious decision. I'm just finding out today that weighed on her negatively against me, and not knowing it, and where I'm thinking I'm trying to be respectful and just do the best that I can. And that's just it. So not only did I go on the spiritual journey to keep it, the other thing, I had to let go and not and understand she's going to make some choices that I necessarily didn't agree with or like, but I had to release her and let her make those choices, even some that were failures, for her to learn, because I had to learn. And that was a big, hard lesson for me. So I want to let single parents know that if you're having a challenge right now with an adolescent or a young adult, or maybe even an elementary, that it's okay that they may not necessarily do everything that you desire them to do. Even when it came to career choices, my daughter was an avid reader. One thing I did ever since she was very young, I kept books in her hand.
Always.
She was an avid reader. As a matter of fact, the goal was for her to be a journalist. Do you remember that, Chanel?
Mm-hmm.
And that she had self-published her first book at the age of 16. And I was like, no, you're going to be a journalist. You're going to be a journalist. You're going to go down this path.
15.
And one day she came to me and said, I'm tired of school. I don't want to do it right now. I want to do something different. So I had to learn to let her live and be okay with that and not blame myself that if she don't make the right choices, I did the very best that I did. There was something I used to tell both my children, my daughter and my son, and I'm gonna ask her if she remembered what that statement was. What
Trouble is easy to get into, but hard to get out of.
Say it again.
Trouble is easy to get into, but hard to get out of.
Did you find that to be true?
Yes.
Did you find that to be true?
Don't I know?
So it was, I had to to relinquish some of that hold that I have. I used to, I'm telling you, she would go to a party and I would sit in the car and be in the car waiting, like making sure everything was okay. Go to the skating ring. I'm there in the background. When she wanted to go to events with different friends, the parents wouldn't send any money, so I take everybody so I could make sure everything was okay. So, but that was driving me crazy because I'm trying to manage everything, and I had such a management issue. And the more I did that, the more she rebelled. The more she rebelled. So I'm grateful that I had to learn in that process that, okay, you did the best you could, and not blame myself. Single parents, I don't want you to blame yourself. Or even if you're not a single parent, if you are two-parent home, if your child or your young adult has not made the best decisions, oftentimes we want to blame ourselves or put guilt on ourselves and say, what did I do wrong? Because why did he or she end up in this situation when I've tried to provide and work and do these things? And when they get to an age of understanding right from wrong, it is no longer, in my opinion, your responsibility. You have taught them, you have given them what life is about and given them the guidelines. Then they have to own their choices and their outcomes to their decisions. So I want to ask you, Chanel, what was one lesson that you think that helped you, that have caused you to mature to where you are now? Which I want to tell the audience, I'm so proud of my daughter's evolution and how she have grown to be more responsible. And she was always loving, always giving, feisty, rebellious at times, and got on my last nerve. And I never forget this time, real quickly, before I asked her that. Do you remember when you tried to run away from home?
I did run away. Yes, I was just thinking about that.
Did you remember that? I mean, she literally thought, and thought she was doing me a favor. You remember that?
I remember.
And where was this? You ran way out to where?
I don't remember where I ran to, some friend's house, but I was out of here. And guys, when I tell you, first off, I want to interject for a second. One of the things, it kind of answers your question. One of the things that I love about you is even when you let go, you still never, even when you let up, I'll say that, even when you let up, you never let go. And I remember that it had got so bad at one point where your friends were like, send her to boarding school or do, everybody.
You were all telling me.
This girl, I remember one of your friends said, you're going to kill your mother. And, it was just bad. I was just rebellious. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Mom was just too churchy for me. I was tired of going to church day in, day out, being there for 8 hours. I was like, God then came and gone. We still sitting here. And, but one of the things that I know to be true, and at least in our relationship, is even now I'm 30 years old and you never stop being a mother. You know what I mean? And I think one of the major lessons that you taught me that really helped with my evolution into me just not only learning to figure out my own journey into womanhood. But number one, you taught me how to pray. And that was a game changer. And even you and I, we get up and we pray together. And so you taught me really how to pray. And not only that, even though I didn't listen to, I didn't always follow everything you told me, I did listen, and a lot of those lessons you would teach me when I was younger, I adapt to today and I adapt to now. So that's another thing I would encourage for parents, particularly single mothers. A lot of times, if you may feel like, gosh, I'm doing the best to, the Bible says train up a child in the way they should go. And it seemed like I'm doing all the training, but maybe I'm just not the right coach. The streets is coaching them. I'm training, but, they want to just do their own thing. And it's like, sometimes you do have to let up, but never let go. And I want to encourage people, because that's what you had to do. You had to get to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm your mother, and I'm going to always be there. But you did have to let me make some of my own decisions. And I know for you that was hard, because I got very rebellious, and, the lion had a little lion spirit. And, and it was really because, again, I was searching for something that I felt like was missing. You know what I mean? And, searching for, love. And now being older, I realized that I was searching, in a sense, for a fatherhood. And a lot of that led to a lot of choices. But I would say one of the number one lessons is you also did, you taught me to always be, I'm a mini version of you, as my fiance always says, but you taught me to always be open. I'm a little too emotional. I'm very open, but in doing that, it did help me now, where I'm able to find my voice. And even now in my business and, working with my clients, I encourage them to find their voice. So a lot of what I didn't realize is a lot of the struggles that I went through, growing up, and even just being in a single, growing up without a father and different things, I'm able to connect with young women. You know what I mean? And a lot of times when they feel like, particularly growing up in, Compton, and, a lot of women from inner cities, and they feel like, being with that dude, because that's what I like, the popular, at that time, God delivered me, but, he needed to be hood. He needed to be, if he didn't have a jail record, I ain't like him.
Boy, we really went for that episode.
Oh yeah, but I'm able to, speak to young girls and tell them, like, that's not where you want to be. It's all finding fun and games until you really start experiencing, you're going to sit in his murder trial and different things like that. So I would just encourage, the biggest lesson you taught me was how to pray, and also how to find my voice. And a lot of that was through prayer.
Amen. I thank God for that. One of the things I also want to say to the viewers, I had to forgive myself, because when you are trying to do all this and you see the struggle and you're trying to raise and you're wondering, well, all this is because of my mistake. I made a mistake. I made a poor choice, and led me to having to raise these kids by myself. So, and I had to grow and evolve as my children were growing. Mm-hmm. So because I was a single parent very young, with the first one at 16 and then the second one at 20. So I'm going into learning still who I am as a woman, mm-hmm. and mm-hmm. learning to love myself and forgive myself for the choices that I made to mm-hmm. lead us into this situation and raise kids and go to school and mm-hmm. try to provide a better life. So there was some times emotionally that I was, like up to here, I was full, and the only thing, and I emphasize that, for me was, if I did not have that spiritual balance, it's a wonder if I would have made it. There were times that I thought about suicide. And I was like, it's so much. I got this going on, I got that going. I'm trying everything I can to correct and my mind, but because I had that spiritual foundation of prayer and the
Yeah.
word of God, and I just fed on it and fed on it and fed on it and fed on it, and that's what really helped me get through the different challenges, and forgiving myself, so that when I saw something, stop blaming me for what choices they were making or the challenges they were making. And
Yeah.
then I don't know if Chanel mentioned this, but we went to counseling
Yeah.
at your school with a
Yeah.
psychologist. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I thought that was also a very open thing that we had to do, because it was like, what else are we going to do here? I'm doing everything. At this point, I'm now a director of nursing. We're no longer in a struggle situation. We're living, I actually moved into a better neighborhood just for her to go to school and be in a better environment, because she was getting in fights and doing all this kind of stuff. And I was like, no, we need to go to counseling. How did you think that helped? Was that any help for you at that time? I know we went together and you went individually.
Right. Honestly, at that time, I just think that where I was in my headspace, at that time, it was just kind of going through the motions. Ironically, I'm so pro counseling now. And, I see a therapist. I encourage it, even in my business, a lot of my clients, and we offer, therapy and other type of resources. But I do think that it's important. Maybe had it been continuous, it would have been something. But, at that moment, it's just I wasn't engaged. I think I just went through a phase.
Wasn't ready for it. You weren't ready for it.
Is that exactly? I was not ready for it. And not only that, a lot of what I went through, as you know, you didn't really discover really who your daughter was until I got older. You know what I mean? And because I was really good at, I want to be clear, like I was smart. You know what I mean? I could be in all activities. So it's kind of like I would do that. And then I may ditch school for 3 months. Who knows? Do you remember, Mom, when you happened to call the school?
So let me tell this story. Or should you tell the story? Which of us should tell it?
Well, so I'll tell the story. So
you tell the story, but tell how it happened, starting from the beginning. This one was
let me tell y'all. So I was good, okay? Like first of all, again, going into how my mama kept us in activity, I took professional acting. Okay, so I want to be clear, when, yes, we struggled, in the beginning, of course, my mom being a single mother, but my mom worked really hard so that we didn't struggle. I really didn't lack on the materialistic aspect, and that's another thing I would encourage parents. It's not always about material things. I do feel like you wanted to overcompensate, and that could have been your own guilt. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Of not being able to be present because you were working hard to provide, and I didn't understand that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, as far as making sure any activity we wanted to do, she was about it. Even if we quit the next week, she'd go and spend the money, and, but yeah, I was really good at acting. And I remember in high school, I had this boyfriend, this particular boyfriend, and I just wanted to spend time with him, and I didn't want to go to school. I felt like I knew more than the teachers. So what I would do is just go through the motions. My mom would get up and go to work. I'd get up, get dressed. Hey, Mom, we'd be getting dressed at the same time. She'd walk out the door. I'd walk downstairs, wait for her to leave.
I would drop you at school.
Or you'll drop me back off school. So this is how it happened when she found out that I wasn't going to school. Senior year. Mm-hmm. It was senior year.
I'm going to see if she remember this exactly, because I don't know.
It was senior year, and this particular day, she dropped me off. Mm-hmm. And we had a dog named Coco. Coco was in the car, too. Coco went. And she dropped me off from school, and and she was asking me, oh, how's school? I haven't gotten your report card. How are you doing? I'm like, oh, Mom, everything's going good. My grades is all good. Everything's good. And, she dropped me off like nothing. I don't know. She says that God told her, call the school. I don't know if I gave off a vibe. I'm not sure.
So
I'll let you elaborate.
Let me interject right in here.
Okay.
That part is true. So I'm on my way to work. I'm actually at this point a chief operating officer, chief nursing officer at a hospital, 213 beds, 2 campuses. I'm on the 17 freeway going north. Dropped her at school, and I heard the voice of the Lord. I call it a spiritual voice that says, call the school. And I said, I just dropped her at school. And literally as I'm going, it's more audible in my ear to call the school. So I call the school. Does this sound right? And it just so happens I get her counselor. And her counselor said, we've been trying to reach you. We've sent letters to the house. Am I lying?
Child was checking the mail.
She had a key to the mailbox, and she would leave the mail in the box except for taking out the letters from the school. Am I right?
Yeah.
So we took the key away, needless to say. So she's failing everything, every class. They're like, we've been trying to reach you. Your daughter is failing. I'm like, what? I haven't got no communication. They said, we've been sending letters. Isn't this not right? So I'm livid. So obviously take the key from the mailbox. I request a conference with the school, the principal, the assistant principal, the counselor. Am I right about it? She and I all in here, and she come in the meeting. I'm trying to cut this story down. Sass it off, and I have to tell her to shut up. She come in there just like going off or something. I had to go into the don't make me beat you down in here, Shannon, in this office, because now I had to take off work and deal with this and try to get it up. And I want you to know God's favor. And the Lord had given me how to talk to them. And one of the things, even though they were sending letters, no one had ever called me to call to see had I not received the information. And that was my saving grace. And I call it God's favor in turning. Because the principal agreed that when they had sent so many letters and they didn't get a response back, why not did they call? She was testing off the charts in all the test scores. She was, any state, at that time they were doing state testing. I don't know if they still do that stuff now, but they were doing state tests. So she was testing above average in everything, but wasn't going to the classes. And that's why she was failing. So the Lord had it. We were like weeks away. I think it was like 9 weeks or something like that before graduation. And they gave a very aggressive plan. And I was on the emails of all the teachers. There were weekly progress notes. She had to not only go to school, she had to do after school programs, weekend programs. Am I right about it? And here it is. She was on the verge of not graduating, family. So I want the parents to understand there is hope. I want the children that may be going through challenges because you're confused or like my daughter, having a lot of emotions about what's going on, identity issues, lack of parent issues, emotional issues, abuse issues, whatever it is, there is hope and there is purpose. And when you have a purpose over your life, things will work itself out. And that's what I want to encourage. And as God would have it, to cut this story short some, she graduated on time. We got pictures to prove it.
I graduated with honors.
With honors. But she had to put the work in. And I am so thankful because at that time, she didn't really realize how much of a negative impact that would have had on her life had she not. And I don't think, because she was still going through emotional things, but she got over that hurdle.
Yeah.
So now we're in 2020, and she now is a business owner. Her name of her business, why don't you tell people what you're doing now? And what is the takeaway that you want the audience to get from this topic today as we're getting ready to close it up? What is your takeaway? What is your message to them after you tell them what you're doing and where you've arrived now?
Right. Ironically, again, it's just about, I think the reason why I told you I suggested the title, A Love Letter to the Single Mother, is really my love letter to you of just how we've come full circle, and how even when I have failed in certain aspects of life, you never really let me fall, and I think that's a testament to, who I am today. The reason I'm able to even be a business owner and be successful at that is because of your leadership and you helping to open those doors. So really, it's just a testament to not only single mothers, but any mother that may be feeling disconnected, whether it's in their teenage years of your children's lives, in their adolescence, or even as adults. Now our bond is so unbreakable. But it has taken a lot. My mom has cried a lot of negative tears, and I spend all my days now making sure that anything I could do, my friends now are like, it's unnatural how much you love your mom, and how you're just, if you don't talk to her, it's a problem. And I'm like, you don't understand. My mom literally is my best friend. And, while other friends may come and go, you have really, not only just because you're my mother, but you have become my friend. You are my confidant. You are my go-to, even in business, when I have a conflict, I go to you. Even now when something's going wrong, I'm like, if nothing else, get my mama on the phone, so you never really stop being a parent. I would say, just hold on, whatever, whether if you're Christian and you believe in God, spirituality is important, but even not, find other ways to communicate. But definitely, like you always used to tell us, I understand that now more than ever, there is no roadmap to being a parent. Yes, we had lows, but we also had a lot of highs in my teens too. But I know this was more about unpacking the negative to encourage. But I would just say, again, this is my love letter to you. I just thank you so much for being the woman you are. Because now as I get older, a lot of people look at celebrities as who they want to, pattern themselves after. And I'm like, I want to be like my mama. You know what I mean? I want to be loving like you. You taught me to be loving. You taught me to be selfless. Even now in the middle of a pandemic, you didn't run away from the problem. You ran to it. And I think that's just a testament. They see you on a podcast, but I just want to tell the listeners, this is her in real life, and even growing up when everybody was telling you to give up on me, because I remember there was a time when I was so, nasty. And I was like, I hated you. And you ran to me. You put me in. And I remember, you would pray for me and I would hear you crying at night and just praying. And now those prayers have kept me. You know what I mean? And it's helped to usher me into, and even now in my business, I told you, I call you, I say, let's pray. And I truly believe in our relationship, and our bond is what has helped me. I own a business called LYLYL Sobriety and Recovery, where we provide resources to those struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. And, counseling is a big part of that. We have psychologists and psychiatrists, detoxes and, sober coaching, companion coaching, and all of those aspects. And it's ironic that how things have come full circle, where, again, I don't regret my story. And one day I will get back to writing it because I think it's powerful, especially our relationship. But I'm so thankful because it's brought me to really understand strength. I didn't understand your strength until I got old enough to face some of life's battles on my own. And it's because of how watching you grow up, and you're right, in a lot of ways we grew together, you know what I mean? But it was because watching how you handle things that I'm able to handle things. It was because watching you pray through the process that I'm able to not give up. And I too had experiences, as you know, and we didn't talk about, where, I was suicidal. And, you just holding my hand through that. And even when I pushed you away, you put me in. So I just would encourage any mother that may be going through a rough time, even as adults. Sometimes everything is good in childhood, and then you get grown, and your daughter feels like your stranger, or your son feels like your stranger, or you feel like they didn't become who I raised them to be. Don't give up. You never stop being a parent. And that's what I would love about you. Even when I'm sick, the first thing, I turn into a kid all over again. I'm like, mommy. But, you do, you're right there, and you're present, and that's what I would say. I didn't realize when we were younger, you were working that hard to make sure that we didn't experience what you had to, you know what I mean? And because you were not bad mouthing my dad, or I didn't really understand it until I got older, and I was able to make my decisions and communicate with him for myself why you kept me shielded from that, you know what I mean? Where you were protecting me. So I would just encourage anybody who may be going through a rough patch, and if you're doing it by yourself, you're never really alone if you have God. And, just know that what you impart in them, and even if they stray, they don't forget. I never forgot the lessons you taught me. And now I believe I do a good job at walking in those lessons. So I just want to say I love you. I tell you this all the time. And I appreciate everything that you did for, not only listeners has she raised me and my brother. My mom has really been the anchor in our family, and she has really, a lot of people have been raised on her back. And just me seeing that, it's a beautiful thing. But I also used to feel like, gosh, Mom, everybody goes to you. And even now I ask you, who do you go to? And I'm working really hard, so one day you won't never have to. But I just say thank you. And I would encourage the listeners that, you hold on to those relationships, and just know that, even in turbulence, there is a path ahead.
Well, there you have it, family. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Tragedy does turn into triumph.
Yes.
And you can be victorious, even if you feel that you are a victim. I want to encourage each and every one of you to continue to stay connected.
Yeah.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us. This is designed to help you to continue to live your life without limits. We want to inform you, educate you, impart into you, and let you know you are not alone. We are here to bring issues and topics and discussions to you that are relevant, that will help you to continue to thrive and to be healed. And we also have private individual coaching, whether it be health coaching or one-on-one motivational personal coaching. Visit www.livingyourlifewithoutlimits.com if you need any information on any of our private sessions. Thank you once again, family. Remember to love yourself, take care of yourself, because guess what? You're worth it. I want to thank again my daughter, my lovely daughter, my beautiful daughter, for her honesty, her candor, and most of all, for her life. She has turned out to be an excellent daughter. I wouldn't trade her for nothing in the world. Even though we had challenges, I've seen how I have built her to be the person that she is today, which is a beautiful woman, a beautiful, godly, fearing character, charismatic, and a little bit crazy, but as the doctor told us, we all got some of that. All right, so thank you, family. Stay connected, because guess what? We're just getting started. I am still here in New York. I love you, and I'll be home at the end of the month. God bless you all.
Thanks for joining us here at Living Your Life Without Limits with your host, Shannon Jackson. You always know she always brings you quality content all the time with each and every episode she creates, and that is just for you. You know, Shannon has done her part. Now's the time for you to do yours. You need to take action. Show her your love. Click on that subscribe button and get your content every single week. Quality content you can find nowhere else. Want more content on the go? No problem. Go to our website at livingyourlifewithoutlimits.com. We're also on the social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, LinkedIn, iTunes, and Spotify. Thanks again for joining us today. Tune in next time for another episode of Living Your Life Without Limits, and subscribe today.